Top-rated tourist attractions in Europe. From France's cultural attractions to Italy's wealth of historical sites and Germany's magnificent list of stunning architectural destinations, European countries have lots to offer visitors. As a result, picking the best attractions to visit can be extremely difficult. Nevertheless, we've put together a list of the best attractions in Europe, no matter whether you're looking for a mysterious destination like Stonehenge or a chance to immerse yourself in a world of art and architecture in ancient Prague Castle or the magnificent Louvre Museum. Learn about the best places to visit in this culturally diverse continent with our list of the top attractions in Europe. Eiffel Tower, France. The Eiffel Tower is one of France's most famous sites. Sitting in the heart of the Champ de Mars in Paris, the wrought iron tower was originally built to serve as the entrance to the 1889 World's Fair. Engineer Gustave Eiffel received much criticism for his design, with people calling it a monstrosity and an impossible task. At the time of construction, the 324-meter-tall tower, equivalent to an 81-story building, was the tallest structure in the world. The tower's 3 levels house restaurants and cafes, gift shops, exhibits about the history of the tower, the original restored office of Gustave Eiffel, and several observation decks. The first 2 levels of the Eiffel Tower can be accessed via a staircase or a lift, but the 3rd level is only accessible to visitors via an elevator. At night, the entire tower is illuminated with golden lights. Colosseum, Italy. Rome's Flavian Amphitheater, better known as the Colosseum, remains one of the most iconic symbols of Imperial Rome and is one of the most visited tourist sites in Italy. It was built in AD 70 to 80 using travertine limestone and volcanic rock. At the time of its construction, and for a long time after, it was the world's largest amphitheater and held up to 80,000 spectators. With an outer wall height of 48 meters and a base area of 24,000 square meters, the Colosseum is an imposing structure. At the peak of its glory, it contained a velarium, a retractable awning to protect spectators during bad weather, and a thick wooden floor covered by sand. Under this floor, an underground labyrinth of tunnels held animals and gladiators before the fights. Although most famous as the site for gladiator fights, the Colosseum was also home to many other shows and spectacles, including reenactments of famous battles and executions. More impressively, it was also the home of mock sea battles, when the arena was filled and drained rapidly with water so vessels could float during the shows. Over the following centuries, the amphitheater served as a fortress, a shrine, and makeshift housing. It was also heavily looted by stone robbers. Acropolis of Athens, Greece. Watching over Athens from atop a rocky outcrop, the ancient citadel is one of Greece's most famous tourist destinations. The Acropolis' most famous buildings were all constructed in the 5th century BC under the watchful eye of statesman and general Pericles. The heart of the Acropolis is the Parthenon, a temple built to thank the gods for the victory over Persian invaders, though it also served as the city treasury for a time. Other prominent buildings include the Gateway Propylaea, which serves as the entrance to Acropolis, the Erytheian Temple, dedicated to Athena and Poseidon, and the tiny but beautiful Temple of Athena Nike. Many of the buildings in the Acropolis were damaged during the Mauryan War in 1687. Most of the ancient artifacts found within the temples that survived the damage have been since moved to the Acropolis Museum nearby. Stonehenge, England. The prehistoric monument of Stonehenge is one of the most famous landmarks in the UK. Built between 3000 BC and 2000 BC, Stonehenge sits in an area of England known for its many burial mounds. A massive ring of 4-meter-tall sandstones with an inner horseshoe-shaped stone circle, the breathtaking Stonehenge and its surroundings are a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The purpose of Stonehenge remains a mystery. Archaeologists believe it could have been a burial ground dating back to 3000 BC. It could have also served as a Neolithic calendar, as the layout of the stones is set to mark sun movements, a religious place, or a scientific observatory. The stones, which weigh an estimated 25 tons each, were transported at least 19 kilometers to their current location. 5. Louvre Museum, France. The world's largest art museum, and the most visited, sits right on the bank of the Seine River. The original 13th century Louvre palace that once stood here was expanded and rebuilt over the centuries, resulting in the massive almost 73,000 square meter building you see today. Outside, the museum's glass and metal pyramid has become a modern symbol of the Louvre. It measures 34 meters on each side and 21.6 meters tall and is now used as the main entrance to the museum. Of the Louvre's stunning collection of 380,000 objects, about 35,000 are on permanent display. These include not only paintings but also drawings, sculptures, and archaeological items. In addition to Leonardo da Vinci's La Mona Lisa and the Venus of Milo, the museum is also home to the 8-foot-tall winged Victory of Samothrace sculpture and the magnificent 6-by-9-meter coronation of Napoleon painting. Prague Castle, Czech Republic. Almost 2 million people visit Prague Castle every year, making it one of the most popular attractions in the Czech Republic. Recognized by the Guinness Book of Records as the largest castle complex in the world, Prague Castle is a stunning combination of Gothic and Romanesque architectural styles. While the castle itself dates back to the 9th century, some of the other structures inside the 70,000 square meters of the complex were built centuries later. Some of the most stunning buildings within the Prague Castle complex include St. Vitus Cathedral, St. George's Basilica, and the 16th century Golden Lane. This lane of small medieval houses once housed the palace guards and goldsmiths, and centuries later, writer Franz Kafka and Nobel Prize winner Jaroslav Seifert. The castle grounds are also home to the office of the President of the Czech Republic and to a secret room that holds the Bohemian crown jewels. The National Gallery has a small museum branch within the castle, and there's also a toy museum focused on wooden toys. Berlin's Brandenburg Gate, Germany. Built by orders of Prussian King Frederick William II in the 18th century, the Brandenburg Gate has become the symbol of Berlin. A massive 26 meters high and over 65 meters long, the gate is crowned by a quadriga or chariot drawn by 4 horses. The gate owes its name to the town of Brandenburg and der Havel as it sits where the road connecting Berlin and Brandenburg town starts. Over the past 2 centuries, the gate has had center stage in many of the historical events that shaped Germany. It was used as a Nazi symbol and survived World War II despite heavy damage from explosions and shootings. Years later, the gate became the unofficial border between East and West Berlin until the construction of the Berlin Wall. And when the wall fell in 1989, 100,000 people gathered at the gate to celebrate. Venice Canals, Italy. Italy's magical floating city has a wealth of beauty, romance, and history to please every visitor. Over 150 canals run through Venice, connecting 118 tiny islands via some 400 bridges and a number of walkways. A romantic gondola ride is one of the top things to do in Italy. The magic of Venice doesn't end in the water. Charming alleyways and passageways, hidden courtyards, and stunning examples of Gothic and Renaissance architecture line the banks of the canals. Much of the beautiful architecture can be better appreciated from the water as you travel under bridges and around corners of the Grand Canal on a gondola sightseeing tour or a Vaporetto, Venice's water bus. Venice's Grand Canal, the main water traffic corridor of the city, is flanked by many palazzos and churches, including the 15th century Venetian Gothic Palazzi Barbaro and the Rococo-style Ca' Rizzonico Palace, with a facade completely covered in white marble. The Matterhorn, Switzerland. At 4,478 meters high, the Matterhorn is one of the highest summits in Europe. The stunning mountain sits right over the Swiss town of Zermatt, on the border between Switzerland and Italy. A popular hiking destination in the Alps, the Matterhorn is unique because it's a pyramid-shaped mountain that can be climbed on all 4 sides. For the non-climbers out there, it's also possible to complete a 10-day trek around the mountain. This is considered one of the most beautiful hikes in the Alps, crossing glacial lakes, alpine forests, and flowering meadows. The area around the Matterhorn and Zermatt attracts skiers and snowboarders during winter, with its Zermatt and Broye Souvenir Resort offering ski lifts high up the Theodule Pass. There's also the Matterhorn Museum, chronicling the fascinating history of alpinism, and a chance for an up-close and personal view of the snow-covered peaks via a helicopter tour. Amsterdam's canals, the Netherlands. Aptly known as the Venice of the North, Amsterdam is fueled by the many hundreds of kilometers of grachten, canals, that cut through the city. The city has three main canals, Herengracht, Prinsengracht, and Keizersgracht, and over 1,500 bridges connecting the islands. The Prinsengracht Canal is probably the most famous canal in the Netherlands, as a number of notable buildings are situated along its shores. These include Anne Frank's house, Amsterdam's tallest church, Westerkerk, the 17th century Duisenhofier house, and a number of other impressive historical constructions. The Singelgracht Canal, though not one of the largest, is well known for bordering the very upscale Jordaan neighborhood, where Rembrandt spent the last few years of his life. Another famous canal, the Brouwersgracht, was once used by ships returning with spices from Asia. Today, it's a favorite canal to park houseboats, and it's flanked by warehouses that have been converted into chic, expensive apartments and lofts. The Vienna Hofburg, Austria. The House of Habsburg originally had the palace built in the 13th century to house one of the most influential royal families in Europe. Once an imperial palace, home to kings and emperors of the Holy Roman Empire, the Hofburg is now the official residence of Austria's president. The palace was expanded over the centuries with the addition of royal residences, a chapel, the Hofreitschule, Spanish writing school, the court library, and the Imperial Court Theatre, which is the national theatre of Austria and Vienna today. The Vienna Hofburg is massive at 240,000 square meters divided into 18 wings, and much of it is open to the public. The sprawling complex also houses 19 courtyards and over 2,500 rooms, many of which are still occupied by the people who work and live here. The Alhambra and Generalife Gardens, Spain. The palace and fortress complex Alhambra, which literally translates to the Red One, was originally built in 889 CE, though it didn't achieve its current look and massive 142,000 square meter size until the mid-13th century. Still, the Alhambra stands as one of the most magnificent displays of Muslim art and architecture in Spain. Built using a mix of red clay, layered brick, and stone, the natural earth red color of the Alhambra is its most stunning feature. Inside, intricate stucco work covers the many Moorish palaces, royal baths, and fortified towers. The adjoining Palacio de Generalife, with its terraced Persian gardens, is also worth a visit, not only for its magnificent views of the Alhambra but also because the Summer Palace, with its many colonnades and pavilions, is a beauty in itself. Mosteiro dos Jerónimos, Portugal. The Jerónimos Monastery is one of Portugal's most recognizable constructions. Built in Lisbon near the Tagus River, the UNESCO World Heritage Site monastery is a beautiful example of Manueline or Portuguese late Gothic style. Manueline architecture is notable for its ornate details, with lots of semicircular arches in doors and windows, and for incorporating maritime elements, such as shells and pearls, into the design. Construction on the monastery began in 1501 and took just over 100 years. The original structure is built of gold-colored limestone, but different kings and architects over the years added their touch via imposing murals, gold-tiled ceilings, and lots of detailed woodwork. The monastery itself has large grounds and gardens, where fountains, 16th-century buildings, and pavilions offer plenty to explore and discover. The Leaning Tower of Pisa, Italy. Construction of the Tower of Pisa, which is part of the cathedral complex that includes 3 other buildings, started in 1172, thanks to the generosity of widowed nobleman Donna Berta di Bernardo. Unfortunately, the architect overseeing the construction failed to properly survey the ground before starting, and the tower started to sink by the time the second floor had been built. Battles with neighboring Florence then halted construction for over a century. By the time the work resumed, the soil had settled enough that the tower didn't fall. It did end up being 55.86 meters tall on the lower side and 56.67 meters on the higher side. Today, tourists can again climb one of two staircases. The north-facing one has 2 extra steps because of the incline to the tower bell chamber to see its 7 bells, one for each note of the musical scale. Sistine Chapel, Vatican City. There's no better reason to visit Vatican City than walking through the stunning beauty of the Sistine Chapel. Built starting in 1473 and decorated with frescoes by Botticelli, Domenico, Michelangelo, and other Renaissance painters, the chapel is still used today for the papal conclave, during which a new people is chosen. Sagrada Familia, Spain. The Church of the Sagrada Familia has been under construction since 1882 and today is one of Barcelona's most famous sites. Part of the reason for the delay was that once the first architect resigned, the second one who came on board, Antoni Gaudí, completely changed the original plans to build a stunning Art Nouveau and Gothic architectural marvel. His original design included 18 spires and 3 grand facades. The south-facing one has yet to be completed. The hope was that the Sagrada Familia would be finished in 2026 to commemorate 100 years of Gaudí's death, but this has been delayed again. Neuschwanstein Castle, Germany. The castle that inspired Disney's Sleeping Beauty's castle was built high up in the Bavarian Alps by order of 19th century King Louis II, better known historically as Mad King Ludwig. If the castle looks like something out of a fairy tale, it's because that was Louis II's vision all along. He wanted a castle that looked somewhat medieval, somewhat out of legends, and very much over the top romanticized. Despite its medieval design aspirations, the king also wanted comfort, and had the castle outfitted with running water, flush toilets, an elevator and a telephone line. Even though phones were so rare at the time, he was probably unable to call anybody. Louis II only used the castle for about 6 months before dying, and the place was almost immediately converted into a museum. Pompeii, Italy. The ancient city of Pompeii is one of Italy's most visited attractions and perhaps one of the most fascinating. The tragedy of Mount Vesuvius erupting in 79 CE caused the death of about 10% of Pompeii's population and resulted in an incredibly well-preserved town, as the city was buried under tons of volcanic ash. Today, visitors to Pompeii can again walk its streets and venture into the town's most popular buildings, the Luminaire, brothel, the Villa of the Mysteries, home to a massive fresco that covers 3 walls, and Thermopolium, the Roman version of a fast food joint. Pompeii ruins cover a massive 440,000 square meters, and it would take visitors 3 to 4 days to truly explore them completely. The best beaches in Europe for every type of traveler. Europe's cultural capitals have long been a bucket list item for every traveler. There's a reason many of the world's most visited countries are in Europe. But when it comes to beach vacations, European seaside towns tend to take a backseat to the old stalwarts of the Caribbean and the South Pacific. Despite the range of oceanfront options, from the rugged beauty of Iceland to the white-hot nightlife of the Côte d'Azur to the peaceful resort haunts of Greece and Croatia, too many tourists overlook the charms of the coast in favor of inland mainstays. Here, we've assembled a collection of the best beaches in Europe, tailored to travelers of every stripe. They've all got stunning scenery and ocean views, but beyond that, these places are as richly varied as Europe itself. We've got off-season hikes along the coast, family-friendly beaches with plenty of activities, secluded spots for private lounging, and party-heavy places thrumming with energy. In other words, no matter who you are or what you're after, there's a seaside destination for you. And the best part? Choosing a European destination for your next beach vacation means you don't have to compromise. Want to travel in your favorite impressionist footsteps? Head to Provence for a few days, then tack on a day trip 45 minutes south to see the white sand beaches of Cassis. Craving authentic Italian food? Spend a few days on the Isle of Sicily, where you can spend the morning on the famed Turkish steps overlooking the ocean, then venture to a local joint for arancini and cannoli. Hoping for an educational excursion? Tour the ancient Croatian city of Lubnis, then hike down the hill to unwind with a swim in the bright blue waters of the bay. With such an incredible selection of spots to choose from, you just might find yourself returning to the European continent time and again, at least until you've tackled all the places on our list. Read on, and let the travel planning begin. Navigio, Zakynthos Island, Greece. The focal point of this famous spot is the hulking, weathered hull of a freighter that ran aground in the early 80s. The ship now sits in the middle of a crescent beach, a few yards away from the tideline where bone-white sand meets the bright blue Ionian Sea. The sheer cliffs surrounding the beach mean that the cove is only accessible by boat, but an abundance of providers in the area ensures there's a steady stream of tourists all summer long. Even so, it's worth a trip. The rusted shell set against the spectacular natural beauty of Zakynthos Island is a striking sight you need to see in person to truly appreciate. Calanque den Vauve, Cassis, France. Adventurous types won't want to miss this secluded spot on France's southern coast. It's only accessible via boat or 2-hour hike, and the effort it takes to get there makes the end result all the more appealing. Tucked at the end of a long inlet, this beach is surrounded by massive, craggy cliffs, and the visual contrast of bright blue Mediterranean against the white limestone makes the whole spot feel like something from a dream. Rabbit Beach, Lampedusa, Italy. This is one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, but its remote location, 100 miles off the Italian coast, tends to dissuade all but the most intrepid of travelers. But for those who make the journey, there's ample reward. The water is shallow enough to wade far out into the bay, and it's reliably calm and clear, making it a haven for swimmers and snorkelers. Keep an eye out for sea turtles. This is one of the few regular nesting sites of the endangered loggerhead. Elefantisi Beach, Crete, Greece. Laid-back beachgoers and adrenaline junkies alike will love Elefantisi for its array of activities and spectacular scenery. The pink sand and mountainous backdrop will keep shutterbugs happy, while active types can partake in surfing, kiteboarding, or windsurfing. And once you've worked up an appetite, head to one of the local tavernas for a plate of dakos, a local specialty of crisp bread topped with a mix of fresh tomatoes, mizithra cheese, olive oil, and herbs. Playa de Mayorn, Formentera, Spain. On top of the incredible scenery Formentera's beaches are known for, you'll find something for everyone at this lengthy strip of Spanish shore. Rent a beach chair and umbrella for the day and take advantage of oceanfront beverage service. Enjoy the view on a long walk, or join a game of beach volleyball. And since the beach goes on for miles, even travelers hoping for a secluded spot won't have to wander far. Scala dei Turchi, Sicily, Italy. Even in the off-season, the famed Turkish steps are well worth a detour. Millions of years of erosion have carved the stark white marlstone into a series of stairs climbing up from the water, and they're stunning to see even when it's too chilly to go for a swim. The place is popular with crowds, so if you're hoping for a solo trip, set your alarm to go just before sunrise. You'll be rewarded with a stellar photo op, a magical experience, and not a single fellow tourist in sight. Durdle Door Beach, Dorset, England. The UK isn't a typical stop for beachgoers, but the striking scenery at this Dorset coastline makes it a must-see. In the summertime, swimming in the shadow of Durdle Door, a massive rock arch that plunges into the sea, is an otherworldly experience. And when temperatures start to dip, a hike along the cliffs with Dorset's rolling green hills on one side and the sweeping ocean views across the rugged Jurassic coast on the other is something you won't soon forget. Zlatni Rat, Brač, Croatia. A steep triangle jutting out into the sea, Zlatni Rat's unique shape means even more sandy surface area for sunbathers. The natural beauty here is plentiful: turquoise sea, dark green spit of forest, bright white beach, and it's a haven for active types, since water sports abound. Take a windsurfing class, rent a paddleboard, or just snorkel in the bright, pristine waters. And with playgrounds, snack kiosks, and lifeguards on duty across the beach, it's the place to go if you're looking for a family-friendly Croatian getaway. Vik, Iceland. You won't want to take a dip at this beach. The rough, frigid waters of the Atlantic are particularly dangerous here, but nonetheless, it's a must-see spot on your Icelandic journey, thanks to the one-of-a-kind scenery of the area. Basalt formations have eroded over time to form Vik's eerie black sand beaches, and the combination of dark sand and strange geologic features, like clusters of hexagonal rock columns and sharp sea stacks jutting out of the waves, make this a hauntingly beautiful and unforgettable place to visit. Playa Sacoleta, Ibiza, Spain. It's easy to burn out after a few days in Ibiza's party-heavy atmosphere. When you do head to this beach, it's not on the typical tourist itinerary, so you'll find a bit more calm here than at more popular places on the northern side of the isle. And the setting alone is enough to leave you feeling recharged. Nestled in a break between two red rock cliffs, the beach itself is protected from the elements, and the ocean here is as blue and clear as they come. Once you've maxed out on sunbathing, stop by the nearby Phoenician ruins for an archaeological history of the area. Lubnis Beach, Cres Island, Croatia. If historical reputation is any indication, this place is not to be missed. The area has been settled for roughly 4,000 years, and continues to be a popular spot for locals and tourists alike. The beach itself is secluded, and sturdy shoes are a must. To get there, you'll have to brave a steep 45-minute hike each way. Don't miss the Blue Cave, a grotto carved into the cliff a few yards down. You'll need to swim to get there, but once you're in, the experience is unlike any other. Sunlight reflecting through the water makes the place appear lit from within. Once you've had your fill of the seaside, hike back up into town for a taste of Lubnis's ultra-fresh seafood in a medieval setting. Nisi Bay Beach, Ayia Napa, Cyprus. For travelers who hope for a mix of beautiful scenery and a party-ready atmosphere, Nisi Bay Beach is the place to be. A tiny strip of soft, pale sand divides two sections of pale blue shallows, ensuring picturesque views no matter where you set up camp. And Nisi Bay Beach Bar is ground zero for the region's nightlife. The hotspot hosts a rotating list of foam parties, DJs, and summertime bacchanals, making it a major draw for tourists hoping to spend all day in the sun and all night partying on the oceanfront. Palembaggia, Corsica, France. If not for the evergreens lining the shore, this spot could be easily mistaken for a Tahitian resort destination. Palembaggia is widely considered the most beautiful stretch of coastline in Corsica, and though it's caught on amongst beachgoers, it's still free of the shoulder-to-shoulder hordes you'll find on some of France's more well-known beaches. And it's perfect for families. The gently sloping shelf is great for new swimmers content to splash in the shallows, while yards of visibility and abundant schools of fish will keep older kids snorkeling for hours. Ölüdeniz Beach, Turkey. It's known as the Blue Lagoon, and the moniker is apt. The bay is so richly colored it almost doesn't look real. The bay and the surrounding forest are nature preserves, so it's unsullied and free of the overdevelopment that plagues many Turkish resort towns. Thankfully, it still has the necessary amenities, bathrooms, showers, cafes, to make your visit more comfortable. The place is a top spot for paragliders thanks to the nearby peak of Mount Babadog, and the lagoon's excellent visibility is ideal for snorkelers and scuba divers. Porthcurno Beach, Cornwall, England. Who needs a trip to the tropics when you can find white sands and turquoise waters within half a day's drive of London? The famous Cornwall beach is flanked by cliffs, so the cove remains calm even during the windy season. Bring your mask and snorkel, the visibility here makes spotting sea life a guarantee, and pack a change of clothes. Once the sun sets, you'll want to make a beeline up the cliffs to catch an outdoor show at Minack Theatre, complete with an ocean soundtrack and a view of the Atlantic. An island holiday hardly has to be a one-note vibe. While your first thought is probably resorts and beaches, don't forget the many islands that feature rugged cliffs, hiking, adventure sports, and even skiing. There are hundreds of islands scattered within and around Europe, all of them with their own unique culture and features. You've probably at least contemplated a visit to Mykonos or Ibiza, but with so much variety nearby, you may want to consider all of your options, particularly because you may find even more captivating places that host far less tourism. Here's an overview of some of the most beautiful islands in Europe to start your search. With such a diversity of climates and activities, you'll definitely find somewhere intriguing to explore this year. Formentera, Spain. While it's often called a hidden gem, this Balearic island in the Mediterranean has been popular since the 60s when it was famed for attracting the world's counterculturists. Long a draw for creatives like musicians, writers, and actors, it has recently eschewed its hippie vibe for a subtle luxury, attracting the world's elite to its bucolic beaches. Formentera, though only a handful of miles south of Ibiza, is not the place for all-night clubs and backpackers. Rather, this is the place for those seeking a casual elegance unequaled in the Mediterranean. With iridescent blue waters and soft white sands, it's also home to some of the world's most spectacular beaches. Santorini, Greece. Probably most famous for the town of Ia, due to its highly Instagrammable vistas of bright white and pastel buildings terraced into the cliffs that meet the sea. Santorini is a pretty large island, home to several small towns and villages. With as many as 2 million tourists every year, it's also the most visited of all of the Greek islands. While it can be full of tourists during the day, most of the cruise ships that call their depart by 6 p.m., so you'll have plenty of options for a long, languid dinner replete with their famous local wine. If Ia seems too glamorous or touristy for your tastes, some of the other spectacular Santorini villages, like Emporio, Pyrgos, and Amerovili, are worth experiencing too for their picturesque architecture, bougainvillea-draped courtyards, and authentic charm. Sicily, Italy. The largest island in the Mediterranean, Sicily is famous for its distinct culture, cuisine, and history. Lovers of food and wine will feel right at home here, as Sicilian fare features loads of fresh seafood, handmade cheeses, and the clear Arabic influences you would expect of an island so close to the North African coast. The wines here are storied and complex, and although they've only recently arrived on the world stage, Sicily is home to a tradition of winemaking dating back hundreds, if not thousands of years. Be sure to try the Etna Bianco, the name of a group of Sicilian white wines created from the Caricani grape. History and culture aside, the island's incredible diversity of landscapes translates into endless outdoor activities. Think, hiking along rugged shorelines, climbing active volcanoes, and diving amongst caves and grottos in some of the Mediterranean's most clear blue waters. Whether you are looking for a deserted white sand beach, a quaint fishing village, or a chance to explore mysterious archaeological sites, you'll find it one of the most fascinating Italian islands. Island of Skye, Scotland. The Isle of Skye is a favorite in Scotland for outdoor adventure. Those interested in hiking, mountaineering, and wild swimming will find ample opportunities here, and there are many options for folks of different activity levels. If you're up for it, there are many challenging peaks to climb on Skye, particularly in the two Coolin mountain ranges from which the views of the island are incredible. If you're not a particularly experienced mountaineer, you might want to choose the relatively easy hike out to the Fairy Pools, where the incredible landscape and seemingly hidden quality lend an ideal backdrop for summer swimming. Madeira Island, Portugal. With a year-round balmy climate, black volcanic beaches, and its vibrant capital Funchal, Madeira is rightly compared to Hawaiian Islands as the vibe and sights are very similar. Where they differ is the food. Madeira is famous for its local cuisine, which, along with typical Portuguese standards, also incorporates incredible seafare and lots of baked sweets. Madeira's attractions are nothing short of breathtaking, with dramatic coastal cliffs, scenic levada walks, lush botanical gardens, and an abundance of marine wildlife watching opportunities. Ile de Porquerolles, France. Much of this island was purchased by the French government in the 70s and turned into a national park, so most of the Ile de Porquerolles remains unspoiled nature. The downside of this is that there are few shops, accommodations, and restaurants, but there's more than enough to keep you interested for a few days. Cars are not allowed on this small island off the Côte d'Azur, so the best way to get around and discover its sweeping white beaches and bucolic olive groves is on foot or by bike. Burano, Italy. Only 7 kilometers from Venice in the Venetian lagoon, Burano, formerly a fisherman's village, has embraced its new life hosting tourists. One of the big draws here is its colorful row houses. While it's unclear exactly how the tradition started, houses here are painted vivid, contrasting colors, with no two adjacent structures sharing a shade. The result is incredibly photogenic, and its proximity to Venice inspires many to venture here for the day just to take pictures. But Burano is more than just one of Europe's most colorful destinations. Beyond its kaleidoscopic facades, you'll find cute bridges, little artisan shops, and lots of pretty places to dine al fresco by the canal. Olive Harris, Scotland. One of Scotland's Gaelic islands, Harris packs many different landscapes into a small area. Lovers of rugged coastline, idyllic white sand beaches, and green hills will all feel right at home here, and the quaint guest houses and bed and breakfasts might make you never want to leave. The Isle of Harris is home to a particularly curious attraction, the Callanish Stones. This group of standing stones is older than Stonehenge. Some estimate they are about 5,000 years old. The rugged natural beauty and authentic local experience you'll find here put this island on top of Europe's best places to visit. Zakynthos, Greece. The Venetians once named this lush island the Flower of the East, and Zakynthos still boasts all of the natural charms that inspired its nickname. Home to dolphins, sea turtles, and even the occasional seal, some sections of the island are reserved only for wildlife, as many of them are endangered. The highlight of Zakynthos might be the iconic Navigio Beach, also known as Shipwreck Beach. Only accessible by boat, this wild patch of powdery sand surrounded by steep cliffs is easily one of Europe's most Insta-worthy places. Zult, Germany. Because of its 40 kilometers of sandy beaches, Zult is always a strong draw for vacationing Germans. Joined to the mainland by the Hindenburg Dam, a rail-only causeway that shuttles people, freight, and cars to and from, the island seduces with its pastoral scenery, unique flora, and charming thatched roofs. Though small, there are several hotels and resorts, many of them beachside, each with their own specialties. Whether you're looking for fine dining, luxe spas, or an activities concierge, you're bound to find something perfect among their many offerings. Mljet, Croatia. The greenest of the Croatian islands, Mljet has no airport, so most visitors reach it by ferry from Dubrovnik. Most tourists concentrate toward the north end, home to a national park with 2 salt lakes. One of these lakes, Veliko Jezero, has an even tinier island inside of it, the quaint St. Mary. Here you'll find the remains of a Benedictine monastery that was originally built over 800 years ago and is currently undergoing yet another restoration. Corsica, France. Though Corsica is famous for its beaches and pastoral setting, unlike other Mediterranean islands, it's also home to several ski areas. A visit in the summer might mean capping a day spent on the sands with an alfresco meal and several glasses of local wine, while winters here are a totally different vibe. Think quaint snow chalets, skiing, and mountaineering. No matter which season you choose to visit, this is the perfect spot if you're in search of a holiday a bit off the beaten path, but with a distinctly French flair. Svalbard, Norway. Svalbard is technically part of Norway, but you won't need to worry about obtaining a visa here as it is open to anyone in the entire world to live in or visit. Set inside the Arctic Circle, tourists here can see the midnight sun in the summer, and the northern lights in the winter. Venturing outside of Longyearbyen, the largest city in Svalbard, isn't recommended without a rifle-carrying guide, as polar bears also make this frozen archipelago their home. Malta. The Mediterranean island of Malta is its own sovereign nation. When you visit, You'll see the clear influences of all of its neighbors both in Europe and the Arab world, particularly in Valletta, one of Europe's most delightful capital towns. Interestingly, one of the most famous tourist destinations in the country, the Casa Rocca Piccola, is a palace that has been inhabited by the family of the Marquis de Piro for 9 generations. While a tour won't gain you access to their entire house, for an additional fee you can hire the Marquis himself to show you around. São Miguel Island, Portugal. With verdant green hills ringed by gray-black volcanic beaches, visiting São Miguel can feel like stepping into another world. Situated at the south end of the Azores in the North Atlantic, it's home to hot springs, volcanic lakes, and even a tea plantation you can tour. A favorite of tourists is whale watching. During their migration periods, you can see sperm whales, blue whales, and bottlenose dolphins within day trip distance. A few different companies offer group whale watching tours, or a travel agent can help you hire a private boat with a guide. Brač, Croatia. Not far from the coast of Split, Brač is probably the easiest to get to of all of the Croatian islands, as you can take the public ferry, hire a catamaran, and unlike its neighbors, you can fly into its sole airport. Having long catered to tourists from around the region and the world, resorts are really the jewel of Brač and range from comfortable to ultra-luxurious. There are several beaches to visit, but of them, the most famous is Zlatni Rat, or Golden Horn Beach. One of the most spectacular places to visit in Croatia, this triangular spit stretches far into the sea and is strewn with smooth white pebbles. Capri, Italy. Stomping ground of the well-heeled, Capri is the perfect getaway for those looking to be seen. Frequented by celebrities around the world, it is known for its luxurious beach clubs and extensive nightlife. This is a destination that appeals to night owls, as locals and tourists alike generally enjoy a late dinner, sometimes stretching until the midnight hour, followed by a jaunt between the many available nightclubs. Though you'll be tempted to spend all of your days in a lounge chair overlooking the sea, set aside a bit of your time there to take a ride through the Grotta Azzurra, or Blue Grotto. This natural sea cave is only accessible by boat and is famous for the particular way the reflected sunlight makes the entire interior appear bright blue. Paros, Greece. One of the Cyclades, Paros is equally popular with Greeks and the international crowd for a summer holiday. A lot of the draw surrounds its beaches, with clear water and slowly sloping sand. Paros' well-developed beaches are especially perfect if you're bringing the whole family, as each is appointed with plenty of facilities. It's also very easy to reach, as it is serviced by several ferries from nearby islands as well as the mainland, or by commuter flights from Athens. A favorite pastime on Paros is discovering the many coves by boat. There are tons of places to rent a canoe or kayak that you can use to explore. Tenedos, Turkey. Turkey's beautiful beaches are its main tourist draw, but venture away from the coastline and you'll discover an abundance of unsung islands big on culture, thrills, and natural charm. Breezy and lazy, Tenedos is popular with Istanbulites looking to escape the city in the summer. As you may be headed there from Istanbul too, you can reach it by one of the many buses that leave the city every day to Geyikli Iskelesi, where you can catch the public ferry. Most visitors to the island make at least one trip to Ayasma Plai, a well-appointed beach on the south end. Here you'll find an unpretentious place to enjoy the summer sand and surf, and plenty of restaurants around if you fancy a bite midday. La Palma, Spain. In an island group known for their beauty, it means something special that La Palma, among the rest of the Canary Islands, is nicknamed the Beautiful Island. Like its neighbors, it's a volcanic island, but La Palma has an evident caldera at its center that has been turned into an impressive national park. During the day you can stroll through the old town of Santa Cruz de La Palma, take a hike along one of many well-worn trails, or go sunbathing on one of its famous black sand beaches. But after the sun goes down is when La Palma truly shines, as local light pollution laws ensure that the night sky remains full of stars. When one thinks of Europe, what's the first thing that comes to mind? The tree-lined boulevards of Les Champs-Élysées? A cold stein of beer in a warm public bar in Germany? How about a snow-capped mountain? No, not the Alps. Well, not just the Alps. Europe is actually home to a myriad of world-famous, world-class mountains, particularly those with impressively high peaks. So, for the adventure travelers who isn't afraid of a little snow, we've compiled a list of the highest peaks in Europe, the ones that should be highest on your list. 10. Dom, Switzerland. Though it might be an anticipated choice, when talking European mountains, it's impossible to avoid mentioning the Alps. However, those whose pondering of the Swiss Alps has never made it past the Matterhorn and Mont Blanc will be surprised to learn of the majesty of Dom, the third highest peak in the range, clocking in at an impressive 4,545 meters, or 14,911 feet. It, along with its twin, Tashhorn, make for a pretty pair of mountain majesty. Why go there? As far as mountain climbing goes, Dom is actually considered an easy climb, despite its impressive height. It is also the point of intersection between the main Alps chain and an auxiliary chain running from Schwarzberghorn in the south to Distelhorn, meaning the summit offers impressive views of neighboring mountains' peaks. 9. Monte Rosa, Switzerland. Another treat from the Alps, Monte Rosa is actually considered the highest peak in Switzerland, and the second highest in the Alps, making it a respectably daring choice for any mountain-aspiring mountain climber. Dufourspitze, its main peak, measures 4,634 meters, 15,203 feet, and is the subject of many a touristic camera lens point, both from close-up and from a distance. But Dufourspitze is only one of many sightly peaks to explore on a trip up Monte Rosa. Why go there? Monte Rosa is snowy year-round, and therefore a popular tourist destination for hiking, skiing, snowboarding, and mountaineering, as well as trekking. A complete trek of the mountain can be completed in about 10 days, but is not for the faint of heart or the cold-fearing, as temperatures can often drop sub-zero, even before sunfall. 8. Ushba, Georgia. Located in the Svaneti region of Georgia, near the Russian border, the Georgian Ushba mountain is often called the Matterhorn of the Caucasus Mountains, not for its height, which is impressive at 4,690 meters, 15,387 feet, but rather for the truly awe-inspiring nature of its spindly double summit, which is the subject of many impressive photos. However, Ushba is considered the hardest climb in the Caucasus mountain range, with the average climb time running at over 12 days of exhausting mountaineering, so those pictures can come at a steep cost. Why go there? For a true adventure climber or seasoned mountain tackler, Ushba Mountain, sometimes called the Queen of the Caucasus, is the perfect challenge. Heavy snowfall and impressive year-round storms can make the climb arduous at best and treacherous at worst. Summit of the North Peak mountain also technically involves a border crossing into Russia, which is an added bonus for travelers looking to cross another country off their list. 7. Mont Blanc, Italy, France. An exhilarating crossroad between France and Italy, though the summit is technically in France, Mont Blanc, Monte Bianco, or White Mountain is often cited as the second most famous mountain in the Alps, right after the Matterhorn. It is a stunning 4,807 meters, 15,778 feet, tall, and the stately views from the top do not disappoint, whether on foot or seen from the comfort of a plane journey from Paris to Milan. Why go there? Lovers of winter sports will be impressed by the plethora of skiing, snowboarding and other winter sport adventuring, though the biggest and best way to experience Mont Blanc is, of course, mountaineering. For adventurous ice climbers, Mont Blanc also features the Mer de Glace glacier, the second longest in the Alps. 6. Tenoldie, Georgia. Tenoldie is another snow-tipped Georgian charmer located among the mountains of the Greater Caucasus mountain range. Its highest peak, Adishi, clocks in at 4,853 meters, 15,922 feet, and is definitely a sight for sore eyes. This peak wins Tenalti the title of the 10th highest peak in the Caucasus, as well as grants it some absolutely stunning views of its neighbors, including Mount Elbrus, and the tiny town of Mestia. Year-round blanket of powder fresh snow makes it an appropriate home to many new and up-and-coming ski resorts. Why go there? Those who love skiing will be pleased at the array of new ski resorts popping up on and around Tenalti, granting it greater accessibility and enjoyment as a touristic destination. However, once hitting base camp, camping is the only option for those wishing to summit the peak. And be careful, because Tenalti's icy climbs make it a considerably more difficult trek than other mountains in its height range. 5. Mount Kazbek, Georgia. The third Georgian charmer on the list, Mount Kazbek, also known as Stepantsminda, is actually a dormant subclass of volcano known as a stratovolcano, as well as a part of the Caucasus mountain range. Its volcanic status has earned it the name Molten Mount in local tongues. Kazbek is considered the third highest peak in Georgia, at a height of 5,047 meters, 16,558 feet, but only the seventh highest in the Caucasus system. Though it's a true feat to climb it, Kazbek's commanding presence can also be enjoyed safely, and while sipping hot chocolate, from nearby Stepantsminda village. Why go there? Mount Kazbek is considered the crown jewel and main site of the Kazbegi National Park, official designated in 1979 and home to an abundance of alpine meadows and beech tree forests, making it a lovely destination for mountain climbers and nature lovers alike. However, unpredictable weather makes for a potentially treacherous and harrowing climb, so aspiring mountaineers should be careful as and well prepared for the adventure of a lifetime. 4. Koshtan Tau, Russia. Moving across the border into the Russian section of the Caucasus, there is the Koshtan Tau mountain, with a height of 5,144 meters, 16,877 feet. Though technically considered a massif, meaning there are several separate peaks on the mountain, the Koshtan Tau is the only to go above the impressive 5,000-meter mark. Located near the Georgian border, the mountain's Russian steep altitude and northern hemisphere location means there is snow year-round, making for some particularly scenic wintertime all-the-time vistas. Why go there? Since its discovery and first climb in 1889, the mountain has remained rather remote and not a particularly popular climb, making it an advantageous trek for those interested in venturing into relatively uncharted territory. However, travelers will be pleased to note that routes of many different terrains and difficulties exist, from easy rock routes to treacherous traverses. 3. Shkara, Georgia. Another Georgian summit of the Svaneti Caucasus region, Shkara is simply another stunning, snow-topped peak, and in fact, Georgia's highest summit. The highest point is a 12 kilometers, 7.5 miles, ridge known as Bezingi, which is 5,201 meters, 17,060 feet, high. Shkara was first summited in 1888, and is not considered an easy climb by any means. However, aspiring climbers dissuaded by the challenge may be equally charmed by Shkara's local Georgian village, Ushkilai, which is an official UNESCO World Heritage Site. Why go there? Shkara is a high-risk, high-reward kind of climb. The high levels of snow year-round and treacherous rocky, steep mountain terrain dissuade many novice and even expert mountain climbers, and the completion of the entire Shkara Benzingi wall is known as one of Europe's most difficult climbs. Those who tough it win both commanding views and bragging rights. Though journey times vary widely, skilled climbers can complete a Shkara trek in 6 or 7 days. 2. Dike Tau, Russia. If this article doesn't prove that the mountain range with the highest capacity for awe-inspiring peaks is indeed the Caucasus, not the Alps, nothing will. Dike Tau, also called Dik Tau or Dike Tau, is known as Jagged Mountain Turkic, and is aptly named, if we do say so ourselves. This second highest peak of the Caucasus region is located in Russian territory, and known for the technical difficulty created by its jagged terrain and the frequent avalanches they cause. It is a truly steep 5,205 meters, 17,077 feet, at its highest point, and offers absolutely stunning views from its peak. Why go there? This mountain, like so many of the others in this range, presents a challenging climb for true adventurers with no beginner or shortcut summit. Climbing takes an average of 13 days camping on the mountain, which can quickly stretch into more due to the challenging nature of the climb. Mountaineers, be sure to pack accordingly and choose wisely between the bitterly cold winter and the summer when the rocks are out their roughest. 1. Mount Elbrus, Russia. Topping our list is the impressive Mount Elbrus, of the Caucasus Range in Russia. Eat your heart out, Matterhorn. Mount Elbrus is, of course, the highest peak in Europe, making it one of the world's 7 summits. The mount itself clocks in at the 10th most prominent in the world, with a stunning figure of 5,642 meters, 18,510 feet. To the surprise of many, Elbrus actually consists of 2 main peaks, both dormant volcanoes, stretching to the west and east. But lava-shy climbers, have no fear. The last eruption was in the year 50 CE. Why go there? Despite its impressive size, Mount Elbrus has been fairly well carved out for travelers, making it an easier summit than many of the other giants on our list. The ascent can be aided by chairlift, and generally can take as little as 8 hours. However, that doesn't mean that the climb can be made by anyone, as it tops not only this list, but several lists of the most dangerous mountains in Europe. Adequate planning is important to ensure that these absolutely once-in-a-lifetime views don't come at the cost of one's life.